Thank you all. Got a long agenda today, and we're also going to, we've got a minute's silence for the firefighter who's having his funeral today. We're going to go outside. I thought it'd be nice if we go down with the service. They're going onto the forecourt. Well, we're looking at the weather. They're going on the forecourt, so I thought it'd be nice to be part of the team. So at around about 10:40, we're going to go downstairs, have a minute's silence, and if you can please hustle back straight away after that, that would be fantastic. So I'll pass over quickly to Matt for the... Oh, sorry, you're right. We have apologies for absence from councillors Moss, Murphy, Eddy and Townsend. I don't think everybody else is here, so that's fine. I'll pass over to Matt for the emergency evacuation procedures.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. We're not expecting a fire alarm test today, so if there is an emergency evacuation, then please, we will lobby in the rendezvous point in the main car park where we do a roll call and then check everybody is evacuated from the building. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chief. There's no declarations of interests before the meeting. Are there any to declare now? No? Brilliant. And then no public access statements have been received. So moving on to Chair's business, as I said, we'll go down about 10:40 for a minute's silence. Welcome everyone, thank you for coming. This committee meeting is taking place at Severn Park, and we are recording this meeting for the public to view on the Fire Authority YouTube channel. So I'm going to go around and ask members to introduce themselves. I'm Councillor Goggin, Chair of the Fire Authority, and I'll go to my left. So Ron, I think, first.
Councillor Ron Hardy from South Gloucester Council, representing Emerson's Green.
Good morning all, I'm Robert Payne, Councillor for Weston-super-Mare Central, North Somerset Council.
Cam Hayward, Councillor for Knoll in Bristol.
Tom, you said repeat the gap.
Bit of a gap. Councillor Tom Menard, Horfield Ward Council in Bristol.
Councillor Raj Sood, representing French Endowment from South Gloucestershire.
Councillor Dan Thomas, Councillor for Congsby and Puxton on North Somerset Council.
Thank you, members, and I'll do the same with officers now, starting on my left.
Good morning, Amanda Brown-Clark to Avon Fire Authority.
Good morning, members and colleagues. Richard Welch, Assistant Chief Fire Officer.
Good morning, Emma Bowen, Democratic Services.
Good morning, Robin Glaze, Pensions Advisor.
Morning everyone, Becky Yates, Health, Safety and Welfare Manager.
Morning everybody, Alison Short, Head of People Services.
Morning, Louisa Roger, Temporary Culture Change and Implementation Lead.
Morning, Tom Luxon, Head of IT.
Hi, Tanya Nathan, Head of Procurement.
Morning, Patrick Collins, Head of Estates.
Morning everyone, I'm Ian Potter, I'm the Continuous Improvement Manager.
Good morning, I'm Jane Williams-Locke, I'm the Deputy Director of Portfolio.
Morning, Claire Bentley, Head of Finance.
Good morning everyone, Matt Cook, your Chief Fire Officer, Chief Executive.
Good morning all, Paula Lyons, Assistant Chief Fire Officer.
Thank you, everyone. So I recently attended, along with Matt, Paula, and a lot of the firefighters, and I know Tom was there. Apologies to anyone else who came along that I didn't meet. But we went along to the Pride breakfast that is held every year at Temple Fire Station. It was a brilliant event. I even got glittered up myself. It was very well attended, and we had some really good feedback by everyone who came along. One other thing today is we are looking to tidy up the member section of the website and to make all photographs uniform, as they're all in different formats and all in front of different backgrounds. So if you've not already had your photo taken today, or you just want it updated, our corporate comms team will take your photo after the meeting or during lunch. So can I just remind everyone to use your microphones when you're speaking so that it's recorded on the YouTube channel, and also remember to turn them off. Voting today, as usual, will be a show of hands. We will ask for any votes against, any abstentions, and then finally votes for. So I'm going to just do the minutes. I think we will then need to go downstairs after that. Can I confirm that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee held on 16th of April 2025 are a fair and accurate record? Does anybody have any amendments or corrections? No? Well, I will propose... Oh, sorry, Dan.
Happy to second, Chair, if you're proposing.
So you've got ahead of me there, but thank you for that, Dan. Yeah, I will propose that they are an accurate record. Dan will second me. Votes in favour? Sorry, I skipped the other ones. No one's going to abstain on that one, I hope.
I think Councillor Sood abstained. You weren't here at that meeting, were you?
I wasn't present in the last meeting, so I don't think it's appropriate for me to say anything.
No, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Raj. So we did have one abstention. Just serves me right for saying that. Okay. Before we move on to the substantive matters, the next thing is a report, a strategy to be presented. So I think rather than start that, we should go downstairs.
I think it's quite a meaty report, so I think it would be easier for you, Ian, wouldn't it, if we didn't interrupt your flow. So, okay.
Okay, so if we can all go downstairs. And moving on to agenda item 7, the continuous improvement and approval of portfolio strategy. And Ian will be presenting on this one.
Thank you, Chair. Morning again, everybody. This is the regular update to members on the progress against our HMI CFRS action plans relating to the inspection and the misconduct and spotlight reports as well. I don't propose to go over the background, so I'll start at 5.1 and the key considerations for this report. You'll be familiar with the dashboard approach to showing the progress that we're making. This is at action level, and you'll also be aware that we had several hundred actions relating to these action plans. So what we are doing at the moment is moving our reporting to SLT and to the improvement board towards an AFI and a recommendation level rather than that very detailed action level, which I hope will give you the opportunity to be better sighted on the progress that we're making. Closeout reports for completed recommendations and areas for improvement go to our internal improvement board for assurance and sign-off before we submit that to HMI. So at 5.4, you'll see the dashboard that you're familiar with. This is our accelerated course of concern for risk. There are 26 actions, 2 are on track and 24 are complete, but below that I've listed the specific recommendations that relate to that cause of concern and the current status of it. So what you can see there is that recommendations 1, 5 and 6 have been signed off by our internal improvement board, but not yet by HMI CFRS. Recommendations 2 and 3 were closed at the last revisit by HMI, and recommendation 4 is work still in progress. Now, we've previously reported 25 actions relating to this cause of concern, and that they were all complete. But we've done a review of actions relating to that recommendation number 4 and determined that it hasn't addressed that recommendation. So we've effectively reopened that. We've split it into 2 parts because there's 2 key elements to this. So the first is around the way that we manage temporary risks and the process for doing so. And the second part is around the records that we hold in 2 of our key systems. So the revised process and guidance has been developed, and that's being rolled out almost as we speak. The cleansing of the records for one of the systems, we can do that as a digital solution. So we can input retention rules. We can run that through, and then it deletes anything that meets that. For the other system, unfortunately, because of the way that the information is recorded, it is a manual process for cleansing. So there are three parts to this. So the first tranche of records have been cleansed from our CFMIS system. Most of those records have also been manually cleansed from our Vision system as well, and the remaining few from that are due to be done by the end of today, actually. It's the end of the month. The next batch of records to be cleansed has been passed to our control team, who are helping with this particular activity. And so everything is on track in terms of when we expect to have the total cleanse completed, which is around the end of October. And so we are providing that update to HMI. At 5.11, there's just a reminder that the cause of concern for mobilisation system was signed off and closed by HMI after their revisit in 2024. The cause of concern relating to preventing fires, again, you can see there, we've got the usual dashboard, 31 complete, 2 of those are complete and pending assurance. And again, at 5.12, I've set out the specific recommendations and the status of them. So you can see there that recommendations 1, 2 and 3 have been closed by HMI. 4 and 5 have been signed off by our Internal Improvement Board, but not yet by HMI. And recommendation 6 is still in progress, and we're still working through the last remaining elements of that particular recommendation. The final cause of concern is the promoting the right values and culture. None of the recommendations so far have been closed by HMI, and it wasn't part of the latest revisit that's recently taken place. A lot of the actions have been set to complete pending assurance, but when we've looked back over those, it's been decided that we're going to do a fundamental review of the actions against the recommendations, partly because culture goes beyond those recommendations in our inspection report. So there's a lot of other work that's going on, but also the actions that have taken place don't necessarily fully address the detail of the recommendation. So that's what we're focusing on at the moment. We've had a workshop at the end of last week where we went through each of those values recommendations in some detail to really pull apart what they're trying to get at. And there's more work ongoing around that fundamental review. HMI will be looking at that as part of the next inspection round, and they will be making a further judgment on those recommendations at that time. We've recently appointed Louisa, who introduced herself a little earlier. She's the Culture Change Implementation Lead, and I've just set out a few bullet points here of the work that Louisa's going to be leading on. So I'd just like to invite Louisa just to say a few words, if I can, about that.
Okay, hello. A lot of it's going to be covered or is underneath the People, Culture and Leadership Strategy that you will come to later. But following that will be the plans that underpin that. So the focus underneath that is to improve insight and data, so looking at feedback loops and ensuring that the culture conversations that we have lead to action. learning and linking in with HMIC and NFCC, and reviewing, of course, the HMI cause of concern, the spotlight report and misconduct, setting, maturity around insight and data so that we can record and prove our progress, and lay the foundations to embed the core code of ethics. So those are the core areas of work.
Thank you, Louisa. And going forward, there will be a culture report that will come forward to PRC around that and other work relating to culture. At 5:22, moving on to areas for improvement. Again, there's the dashboard that we usually present. AFIs are not looked at during a revisit, so they are all still open at the current time. You can see there at 5.23, there have been a lot of actions. In fact, a couple have been added in. All of them are either awaiting assurance or are on track. There is just one that's currently off track, and that relates to the review and updating of the promotion policy, and the work on that is almost complete. In terms of the Internal Improvement Board has signed off. It says here one area for improvement is complete. That was correct at the time of writing, but we've had an Internal Improvement Board since then. There were 3 reports that came forward, and all 3 of those were closed out at that Internal Improvement Board meeting. So we have 4 now that have been signed off. As I mentioned earlier, the way in which we report progress has been revised, and we're tracking things now up a level, which is certainly more meaningful in terms of being able to see where we are in relation to what HMI are looking at, because that's the level that they consider things. The closeout reports come to Internal Improvement Board once all the actions relating to a whole recommendation or an AFI have been completed and is considered there. Reporting has already changed to this method to SLT. We started that last month, and I'm proposing today that that same approach is adopted for reporting to members. I think it's, hopefully you will agree that it's a more meaningful way to present the information, and certainly will help with that scrutiny and challenge. I've mentioned the closeout reports at 5:30. So moving on to 5:31, we've just recently had our 4th revisit by HMI. They were here for about a week, and that focused on 2 of the causes of concern. So that was around the risk information and the prevention. The culture, as I mentioned, will be looked at during the next inspection. Ahead of the meeting, ahead of the revisit, there was a checkpoint meeting with the Chief Fire Officer and other senior leaders, and they provided a strategic briefing to them. So not just around those particular causes of concern, but actually the progress across all of these matters. As usual, there was a hot debrief to the Chief Fire Officer, and the formal letter, we have received an embargoed letter for fact-checking, which is part of the process, and then so we're going through that at the present time. Then we'll get that back to HMI, and then usually it's fairly quick for them to publish the final letter, and once that has been published, obviously we will share that with members as soon as it's available. Just moving on then to the Spotlight report on values and culture. Again, there you can see from the dashboard, 17 are complete. 1 of them is complete pending assurance. So this is the final recommendation that's outstanding around plans to ensure that the service is meeting the fire standards for leading the service and leading and developing people. So this action was around having plans, not having them actually delivered at that time. We've had two, or split it into two phases. So the first phase was a gap analysis of the fire standards criteria. There are 19 standards in all, and we've undertaken that work across all 19. In the early days of fire standards, that was the approach taken around the country. Where we're moving to now is more towards an assurance position on those. So something you may be familiar with is the 3 lines of assurance, and that's a model that we're looking at, and there is a template for that at Appendix 3. So this isn't sort of, do we, don't we do something, it's to what level of assurance do we have that we are meeting those various criteria. The work on that phase has just begun. We're focusing on leading developing people and leading the service and 3 others initially, but this will be extended out to all of the standards over the coming weeks. So the first run through will be to look at the gaps that we had before, but also primarily to determine what level of assurance and where that assurance is coming from. So is it something that we've got internally around, say, policies, processes, procedures, and so on? What reporting do we have and what scrutiny takes place internally? And then what is happening in terms of that external assurance? So that's a piece of work that's ongoing, and I'll include an update in future reports. Moving on then to the misconduct thematic inspection. Again, there you'll see that the vast majority of the actions, when I say actions, these are at recommendation level. Most of them have complete pending assurance, and 3 are on track. And those recommendations there have moved into that complete pending assurance since I last reported to members. None of the actions and recommendations have yet been through the assurance process at Internal Improvement Board. That's really because we've been focusing on areas for improvement and our cause of concern recommendations, but it is something that we will get to. So it's about prioritisation really around those. In terms of the monitoring portal, I mentioned at the previous update that the monitoring portal is now live. We have done some updates to that. So the idea there is that we don't just rely on revisits and inspections. We can upload those updates on a regular basis, and what we're looking at is not like a narrative update, but a position statement. So we're being really clear about, what is it we've delivered, what difference is it making, which I think is the most valuable way to approach that. And then at 5:48, we've got the next round of inspections just about to commence. They've released a timetable for the first 14 services, and Avon is in that first tranche. There's 2 parts to the inspection process. There's an initial document request and workforce survey, which will open on the 17th of November, and that goes for about 4 weeks. So they provide us with a list of key documents and data that they need ahead of the inspection, which we'll provide. And then they also do a workforce survey across a whole range of questions, and that will help inform their field work, which commences on the 19th of January 2026. Be briefing members on the key elements of that inspection. There are some changes to the inspection content for this next round. About 85% of the inspection will be the same as for round 3, but there are a number of new areas, as I say, and be briefing members on that and our preparation activities in due course. Just moving on to transformation, I said at the meeting before last about a closed down report coming to members, and I'll be bringing that to the October meeting. One of the things that was picked up in the 2023 inspection was around the service's capacity and capability for future change. We've had the transformation programme. We have had the service improvement team that was in place until the end of March this year. But following on from that, the Portfolio Directorate has formally been established. So that's the service improvement team that was there, and a number of those roles have been substantiated, but also bringing in roles from other parts of the service that are working on these similar areas into one directorate, so that we can have a more sort of holistic and collaborative approach to all of our change activity. We have a draft of a portfolio strategy which is included at Appendix 4. I don't propose to go through that sort of line by line, but what we're looking for today is your comments and your views on the content of that and approval of the strategy. In terms of risks, the risk in our corporate risk register is primarily around the judgments at the next inspection, although it does feed into a number of the other risks there that you can see in the report. I can tell you that the risk level for this particular risk is has remained unchanged from the last full review, and is within tolerance. But there are also a number of actions to reduce the risk. So the risk is that we don't get a better judgment at the next inspection, and then obviously aside from the work we're doing on the areas for improvement and recommendations, there's other work going on to try and ensure that we have a better outcome next time around, and there will be a further deep dive into that risk. I think it's the early part of next year. So that's my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Ian. Thank you for you and your team's work on this as well. It's very heartening to see lots of green and not so much red. And welcome, Louisa, as well. I've just got a couple of queries or confirmations. In 5.10, you've got the remainder of this first batch of records is anticipated to be cleared by 10th July 2025. I think you said today. Was that correct?
Yes, it was. At the time of writing, it was going to be the 10th, but it's taken a little longer to clear the remaining 800. So yes, it's actually the end of the month.
Thank you. So we'll change that in the document. Only a couple of other things, and then I'll pass over. So the promotion policy, the work's almost complete. Is it still on track for 31st of August?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's on track for that date, yeah.
Fabulous. And the last one from me, the embargoed letter fact-checking, do we have a rough idea of when that will be complete?
So, so the deadline for the return of that fact-checking is Monday the 4th of August. So if it's ready to go tomorrow, we'll send it tomorrow, but otherwise the absolute deadline is the 4th of August.
Great, thank you very much. Right, I'll open up to questions from members. Dan.
Thank you, Chair. I too wish to welcome this report and this clear way of presenting on progress. I've been in meetings, either PRC or FA meetings, where members have requested clearer ways for us to scrutinise on progress, and it's really good to see that's been taken on board. And I would also like to thank Ian and his team and the SLT for bringing this in and the work they're doing on this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have any other questions? Tom?
I'd also add my thanks. I just wanted to dig in to areas for improvement and just to pick up on the promotion policy and process, which you're now saying will be complete by the 31st of August. Is that on track for the 31st of August, or are you anticipating any further delays?
As far as I'm aware, it is on track. It was already anticipated that it would be the end of June, but I think it's just the final part of the the consultation and sign-off process that is still to just be finalised. So yeah, I mean, I will happy to double check, but as far as I'm aware, it's still on track. Yeah.
Ian, I think Rich wants to come in on this one.
Yep, I can update on that. The motion policy process, our last consultation, negotiating meeting with the RBs, it was signed off last week as complete.
Thanks, Rich. Fabulous news. Okay, any other questions? Raj?
Thank you, Chair. This is my first time. It could be a stupid question, but please can I bear with me for that. Out of these 6 recommendations for area for improvement, all these which you have gone through, is it just for solely our force, I mean this authority? Because it is come from HMRC. I just want to clear my concept because it's not for, because the other forces is just for ours.
Yes, so so all of the causes of concern relate specifically to this service. The spotlight and misconduct reports, that they are national reports and they apply to all services.
On this page 20, 4.1, the financial implications. The reporting of progress made in HMIA CFRS action plan does not have any direct financial implications.
So it means the actual reporting of the progress doesn't have any direct financial implications.
Right.
The work behind it to remedy does.
Does has.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Raj. Any other questions? Okay, well, the recommendations set out in section 2, we are asked to scrutinise the contents of this report and make any recommendations or suggestions to support the service in continually improving, to approve a change to the way progress is reported at future meetings, from action to recommendation or area for improvement level. C, to note the approach to phase 2 of the fire standards, and D, to scrutinise and improve the portfolio strategy and make any recommendations or suggestions to improve the content. So just before I go to the vote, does anybody have any recommendations or suggestions at this point? No. Okay. Well, I will propose that we endorse those recommendations, and I believe I'm going to be seconded by Dan.
Happy to second.
Thank you very much. So do we have any votes against? Do we have any abstentions? And all votes in favour, please. Thank you very much. Then thank you. Moving on to agenda item 8, which is the Local Pension Board Annual Report. And Rich.
Thank you, Chair. This is the report of the Local Pension Board 24-25. For purposes of time, I don't intend to go through the whole report, but I will just highlight a few parts of it. We held our Local Pension Board last week, and the report includes information and the commentary on the work of the board, which primarily is membership and meetings of the board, any conflicts of interest and how they're managed, to identify key risks and areas of potential concern, training for board members, any expenses and costs incurred by the board, gifts and hospitality, and the forward work plan for 25-26. The two largest areas of work for the board at the moment are relating to the MacLeod Sargent remedy and the Matthews case. In addition to that, there's some large pieces of work around the Pension Regulator's General Code of Practice and the Pensions Dashboard. The self-assessment against the General Code of Practice is due to complete in 25-26. We have carried out that self-assessment, which, from memory, we were 80% compliant. There are 3 areas that we need to improve on, and there's currently an action plan being written for those. The board was also pleased to see we have had a change of administrator. West Yorkshire Pension Fund are now our administrators, and they have now created a members portal. So all members of the pension scheme can access that to find out their information and be communicated with via the portal from West Yorkshire. The risks on page 7 of the report, page 7 and 8, this was at the time of writing. Many of these risks have been updated. Importantly, the LPB 16, the capacity of staff to deliver, we have substantially reinforced the team. Alison Short, Head of People Services, has put a lot of work into this work along with Robin, but also seconded one of her staff over into the pensions team for a period of time. We've recruited 2 additional pension administrators, and we are currently using the expertise of an external person to assist us, who carried out our code of compliance work. So we're in a much better place than we were maybe 12 months ago, and I'm happy to take any questions around the report. However, I will point out the report is not written by me, it's written by the outgoing chair, so I'll do my best to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. And I'm certainly no pension expert, but are there any out there who want to ask Rich questions? Looks like you've got away with this one, so to speak. Okay, so we are asked to scrutinise the report and consider if further information is required to assist our oversight of this area. And I think we've done that, so that's good. Moving on to agenda item 9, approval of firefighter pension scheme discretions. Is this Ali?
Thank you. I'll just pick out some key highlights from the report and not go through the very hefty appendices that you would have been given for this. But the discretions are in relation to the 3 firefighter pension schemes, that's 1992, 2006 and the 2015 pension scheme, as well as the firefighters compensation scheme. The Fire Authority is the scheme manager and is empowered to make decisions in respect of these schemes, which each contain a number of discretions. An agreement is required as to whether and to what extent the Fire Authority will exercise these discretions. A full review of the existing discretions has been undertaken and the recommendations made in full in the appendices. Very usefully, we have provided a summary of those changes at Appendix A. This paper and the discretions were first reviewed by the LPB last week, and they were happy to put these forward for your approval today. For reassurance and context, these discretions were written and reviewed by the independent pension consultant and circulated to a number of key stakeholders, including West Yorkshire Pension Fund as the pension scheme administrators. Feedback was received from a number of sources with some extensive discussion over a couple of the areas in particular, and amendments made accordingly where necessary. And finally, the review of the pension scheme discretions does minimise risk of regulatory and legislative breaches and or inconsistent policy or practice by ensuring that discretions align with the new pension regulations. Happy to try to take any questions on discretions.
Thank you, Ali. And could I just ask, have all these decisions gone past the unions as well?
Yeah, so on the local pension board we have a Fire Brigade Union representative as an employee member.
Thanks, Rich. Do other members have questions?
A follow-up to that one, was there anything they weren't happy with in this document?
Thankfully, no.
Thanks, Tom. I just assumed. Dan?
Just very quickly, the union rep, John Cowley, is someone I've met a few times, and I think he'd be a really good addition to this. So, yeah, he'd be a credit. But thank you very much.
Brilliant. Well, we have to have all the stakeholders involved. Ali?
Sorry, I meant to mention at the beginning that there is an error in the report, and the meeting date at the top says 31st of July 2024, and that meant obviously to be 2025.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, So we are asked to approve the amended discretions for the 3 firefighter pension schemes and the firefighters compensation scheme as listed in the appendices. So I'd like to propose that we do so. May I have a seconder? Tom, thank you. Do we have any votes against? Any abstentions? And all votes in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, moving on to agenda item 10, which is an update on progress with the MacLeod Sargent legislation. Is that Ali or? Yeah, Ali, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll again pick out some key areas of the report and update from LPB last week, and then I will hand over to Robin, the pension advisor, who can provide a verbal update a bit further on that. So just for some background for those who aren't familiar, the MacLeod Sargent remedy is a set of changes to public service pension schemes which was designed to correct age discrimination that occurred when the government reformed these pensions in 2015. Essentially, it ensures that younger members of the public service pension schemes are treated the same way as older members who were initially protected from the reforms. This involves giving affected members a choice about which scheme's benefits they want to receive for the period between 2015 and the date when the reforms were fully implemented. The challenge that central government has faced is that none of the public sector schemes have identical rules or introduce their new schemes in the same way or at the same time. The process to implement remedy is extremely complicated and requires changes to administration software by the pension administrators. Following a peer review last August by Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service, as Rich mentioned earlier, we were able to source additional resources and capacity within the HR and pension team to support with the extensive data collection and manipulation that was needed for the pension administrator to be able to apply the remedy to affected members. We have also engaged with an external pension consultant who has ensured that good progress has been made with key pieces of work, including the discretions, the Pension Regulator General Code of Practice, and assurances that all necessary actions expected of us to date have been taken and all planned actions moving forward and timescales are reasonable. It is still, of course, extensive and a significant amount of work. All data that West Yorkshire Pension Fund needed in order to be able to progress this was supplied to them by the end of June. And this paper was obviously reviewed by LPB last week, and they were happy to put this forward for your consideration. And finally, before I hand over to Robin, some assurance around sort of risk monitoring. The LPB monitors and has consistent oversight of the Fire Pension Scheme Risk Register, which informs our overarching corporate risk register, which is regularly reviewed and scrutinised by the Service Leadership Team, Board and the Audit Governance and Oversight Committee, where we apply scrutiny and ensure that controls and planned mitigations are sufficient to manage the level of risk. And some of those risks were changed last week, some were escalated, some were de-escalated, but that pension risk register was approved as well. That's the key parts of the report. I'll just hand over to Robin, if that's okay, to do an update.
Thanks, Ali. Just to confirm that we're dealing with members' statements relating to 31st of March 2024, and 80% have been issued out. We are in breach of the regulations, and we have reported ourselves to the TPR on the same basis that West Yorkshire have also reported. They're not dealing with retired cases at the moment, purely on the basis that they are all manual calculations, and they will be starting those in September, so we are expecting some complaints. The figures going out at the moment, if there are 2006 members, there is a note of how much they can be refunded if they select that scheme, and in the 92 scheme there is a cost, but the costs are all calculated as at the 31st of March last year, so we're looking for a calculator to bring that up to date for members given the choice. The only other thing is to mention Matthews. Matthews is for retained firefighters, and we had about 177 cases to progress. At the weekend, there was an article on BBC Moneybox and also in the Telegraph telling people to contact the Fire Authority. We're now at 223. So we are expecting more to come in. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ali and Robin. Sorry, I'll let Rich come in at this point.
Yeah, sorry, just to, for a bit of reassurance members really, missing the deadline for the statement is a sector-wide issue. So currently our administrators West Yorkshire administer for 24 fire services out of the 48. And every fire service is suffering with the same issue. So whilst we did report ourselves to the TPR, the pension regulator, for the breach, that was really as a secondary thing, because the West Yorkshire reported themselves for the breach as our administrator, but as the Fire Authority is the scheme manager, then for belt and braces we ensure that we reported that as well. But just a bit of reassurance that it is a national issue, not just for Avon.
Thanks, Rich. And I know before, when I was on the audit committee, we've wrestled with this for a very long time, waiting for judgments, waiting for legislation. So, yeah, I'm aware that it's a national problem, so thank you. Ali or Robin, just IDRP, I'm presuming that's immediate detriment, but then something.
That's the internal dispute resolution procedures.
It's the process used to raise a pension complaint, basically.
Got you, thank you. Do members have questions?
I would have asked that you've answered, just in terms of sort of the sector-wide. Do we know what the current thinking of the pension regulator is around it, and what approach they're likely to take around enforcement, if any?
I think from what I understand, the dates that West Yorkshire have given to complete this work, the pension regulator are satisfied with. I think they're aware that it's not just one organisation failing to comply, it's a sector-wide issue, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that the regular change of legislation over the last couple of years from the Home Office has massively impacted the administrators trying to keep up with it, and as Robin mentioned earlier, we're still waiting for some calculators that are supplied by government, which we haven't received. So it's almost impossible to complete this work, and thankfully it's the government that's holding it back in some areas. So the pension regulators certainly aren't indicating any fines or anything like that at the moment for that piece of work.
So a sort of pragmatic approach, providing the revised deadlines that West Yorkshire have set themselves are met. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Cam?
So can we have some clarification on what those deadlines are and what the timescales are for working through those cases as well?
Testing me there, Cam. Robin, do you know what they are?
Yeah, the aim is to get all member statements out by the end of August. There will be some that miss, and those that will miss will be transfers in from other authorities and pension scheme sharing orders. The aim is to get this year's statements out in September, so that although members they're slightly late, they're going to be a month late, members will have an up-to-date figure, and it is available on the portal.
I think it's just worth mentioning, Chair, that the service transfers and the pension sharing orders part of the problem. That is because, again, administrators are waiting for legislation. They don't have the legislation, so it's impossible for them to make those calculations. So again, not due to their fault or delay.
Thanks, Rich. Dan, you had?
Just on the ruling about retained and on-call firefighters, obviously I welcome that they now receive a pension. They do incredibly value services, particularly in our rural communities like the ones I represent. Do we, as it's a sector-wide issue, do we know which potential pot of money these on-call firefighters' pensions may come out of? Would it central government or individual fire and rescue services? Has there been any indication so far, or is that too far down the line?
Yeah, I think I will ask Claire to jump in if she's got any further information, but we receive a top-up grant from the Home Office every year, which covers any additional costs we may have around pensions. Now, my understanding is it will come from that top-up grant, but I don't know if Claire knows any different.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is. So we've been asked for the last couple of years to provide information relating to the top-up grant around this issue. So we would expect to see that as an addition, and we do an unaudited and an audited version of that. So we then get paid that towards the beginning of the financial year. So it would come through the top-up grant the same as the rest of the pension monies from central government.
It's good to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? No? Well, the recommendations are that we scrutinise the report, and I will consider that we've done that. So moving on to agenda item 11, which is the approval of people, culture and leadership strategy. Is it yourself, Ali?
Yeah. Okay, me again. Last one. For me, not for you, sorry. So I'll just go again, do a brief run through of the key parts of the report, and then I'm going to hand over to Louisa, who can talk you through the actual strategy development and design. So following the HMICFRS visit in 2023, one of the recommendations relating to the calls of concern around culture was to create and publish a people services strategy. The key people-focused functions were moved into the same directorate at the end of 2023, and the first people services strategy was published in February 24, covering the 24-25 year. At the start of this year, a new people services structure was agreed, and that is currently going through the process of being implemented. Given the significant overlap between the work of the people services teams and the culture programme, it was agreed to develop one overarching strategic document. So this new strategy reflects the pillars and purpose within the NFCC's People, Culture and Leadership Strategic Plan and the insights gathered from stakeholder engagement and touchpoint surveys. It has also been informed by risk, inclusive of the HMICFRS outcomes, recommendations from the Spotlight and Misconduct reports, and the Fire Standards Board leading the service and leading and developing people standards. The work programmes and projects that underpin the delivery of the majority of this strategy predominantly sit within the People Services Department under the Service Delivery Support Directorate, but of course culture change is owned by all of us and will be an entirely collaborative journey. The next steps once this strategy is published is to finalise team plans and delivery schedules, develop key performance indicators and prioritise supporting work plans informed again by data insight, culture mapping and the HMICFRS recommendations, to embed the necessary governance structure and processes, and we will continue to consult with our people services leaders, key stakeholders, including our external partner agencies, seeking specialist insight where necessary. So I'll just hand over to Louisa, who can talk you through the strategy.
Thank you. So, as we've said, it directly mirrors the NFCC structure using slightly less formal language, but the pillars are people empowered, engaged and accountable, leadership and workforce development, cultural connection and equity, health and well-being and resilience. And then following some of the results from our touchpoint survey, there's key shifts that we need to make around insight, connectivity, clarity and transparency, and we make that commitment in the strategy. Our people are really proud in terms of the way they serve the community. That pride is real, and the foundation of cultural shift that's already taking place. So we're becoming more inclusive, more connected and more human in how we work together. So within this strategy, we're taking a people-led design shaping approach to building culture together. And we're focusing on how people experience work, not just systems. So we're doing this by starting with empathy and building a picture of where we are using psychological safety approaches and cultural change models. So one psychological safety model that we're using is called SCARF, and it's a model that enables us to see whether people are threatened or supported by psychological safety, and that includes the status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness and fairness. We're drawing on insight from staff and our communities and understanding the data that's come out from the recent local dashboards, looking at national frameworks and understanding what matters most. We're committing to working with our people, not just for them. So any people-based products that we're working on are going to be built in co-creation to help us shape those systems and experiences going forward. And essentially learning and adapt as we go. This is a designing of culture, so we'll test, learn and adapt over time. One way of doing that is looking at culture in its entirety. So I think previously we've looked at it in relation to values and behaviours and communicated them and sort of explained the direction of travel. This is looking at core behaviours, decision-making norms, feedback and learning loops, and symbols and rituals and psychological safety. So we'll gather all of that information to be able to tell the picture as we continue to go along our journey and to be able to have that loop in terms of people understanding how we move to action. So it's moving away from a traditional, let's define our values and behaviour frameworks and communicating them, to let's understand what our people are experiencing and then co-create values that reflect and guide us. So this one is about telling, the other one is about listening, testing and evolving. So this is more than a strategy, it's a way of working, it's a belief system, a way in which we are showing our direction of travel around culture and doing it together. So very recently, we, after this report was published and sent to you, we've had a meeting with the Service Improvement Board and we had a little bit of feedback in relation to some of the things that we could add around the celebration in there and what we've done previously with SARI and Bristol Women's Voice, and how external partners can help us move this forward. And also in relation to middle management being those key drivers to engage and how we influence them around this strategy. So that's something that we'll probably adapt and change after this meeting. So any questions in relation to the strategy that was sent?
Thank you. And obviously a perfect example of cultural change is the participation in the Pride Breakfast, the Pride March, and also the Bath Pride event as well. And I think those of us that have been on the authority a reasonable amount of time, I'm looking towards Robert and Ron and myself, we have seen a journey that has been made, and I am very encouraged that that is very much in the right direction and is progressing quickly. So I'll open to questions. Matt, you wanted to come in?
If I may, Chair, as Chief Fire Officer, since coming into the organisation, this is our biggest single priority for the service. So leadership and culture, it cuts through everything we do. So on behalf of the Fire Authority, this is a focus for us. So we've only recently had the National Fire Chief Council People, Culture and Leadership Strategy published, and I wanted to thank Louisa, Alison and Paula for being agile in our approach. And as I say, it's a living document. We will continue to nurture leadership and culture within this fire and rescue service and continue to grow our culture. So we are one team and we're connected across all parts of our service, people, serving our local communities. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Matt, and I obviously echo those thanks, and I'm sure the rest of the authority does. Amanda?
Can I just check something? So you're being asked to approve the version here today. So when you mention there will be changes, shall we just commit to send a link to members when the new document is available? So we're approving this version today, but with a commitment to circulate the updated version. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Do we have any questions from members? No? Tom?
Less a question, more a comment. Really welcome seeing this come forward. I mean, as the saying goes, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So, you know, the devil will be in the detail and the metrics of how we measure this actually delivering on the ground. So, you know, hopefully we'll make sure we regularly review this here, just so we can see, you know, how it is progressing. Are we getting the right results from the strategy, and is there any further support that the Fire Authority could provide to make sure that we get there? I think one of my interests is always in mental health and how we're looking after the well-being of firefighters. Come from a mental health charity background, and you know, and that psychological safety point, you know, is really crucial to ensuring people feel like they can learn safely, make mistakes within reason, and then, you know, grow as individuals and become more effective.
Thanks, Tom. Do we have any other questions or comments? No? Okay, well, we are asked to scrutinise and approve this narrative, as Amanda has clarified. So I will propose that we do approve it. Do I have a seconder? Tom, thank you. Are there any votes against? Any abstentions? And all votes in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. So moving on to agenda item 12, which is the approval of the Health, Safety and Welfare Strategy. And I believe Becky is presenting on this one.
Thank you. Yes, I'm here to present the Health, Safety and Welfare Strategy. I won't read everything out, but I will just go over my 4 objectives that I've drafted. So by way of a background, I've been in my post now for about 18 months. One of my key objectives when I started was to put in place a health and safety management system, because we didn't previously have one. And this was to enable the health and safety team to effectively track and manage compliance throughout the service. Once I'd put the management system in place, this enabled me to identify gaps and areas of improvement that we needed to make based on organisational risk. And this is where my strategy then came in, because it led me into the 4 objectives that I've set out for 25 to 28. So if you wanted to follow along, objective number 1 is on page 3 of Appendix 1. Objective 1, to promote, celebrate and communicate good health and safety practices and positive safety behaviours as part of continued work to embed good health and safety culture. So one of the previous objectives for 2021 to 2025 was to improve health and safety culture throughout the organisation, which I think we've come a long way on. But I wanted to build on that a little bit more and promote some of the positive health and safety behaviours that we have, not just look at the poor behaviours. So you can see underneath I've detailed how we're going to achieve this and what measuring it will look like. Objective number 2, which I believe is on page 4, was to redevelop and update service risk assessments and the risk assessment process. So it goes without saying that risk assessment is a key part of managing any health and safety system. But I wanted to bring it a little bit more up to date, make it modern, easier to manage, easier to navigate, and most of all, effective, and be able to use it throughout the whole organisation. So again, underneath, I've bullet pointed my details of how we're going to achieve it, and then some narrative at the bottom on how we can measure that. Objective number 3 was to develop and deliver updated incident investigation training. It's extremely important because it demonstrates our commitment to looking after our employees, learning lessons from previous incidents, rectifying issues, and highlighting key areas of risk through near-miss reporting. Again, underneath, detailed my ways that I'm going to achieve this, and some narrative again on how we can measure that going forward. And then my 4th objective, I believe that's down on page 5, was to update key health and safety documents and guidance to assure ongoing compliance against legislation and best practice. This is going to be an ongoing objective. It's something there's a lot of work needs to go into the background of it. Some of the documents that we have, although relevant, they're very outdated. and I need to bring a lot of these in line with new and updated best practices and certain parts of legislation. Although there's only 2 bullet-pointed elements on how we're going to achieve this, there is, like I say, a lot of background work that needs to go into that. Bullet point 2, just to clarify, where I've put some sub-projects that I want my team to take forward. Fire management is not around the management of how we attend fires, it's fire management throughout the organisation where we need to prevent fires within our buildings, as every employer would have a duty to do so. And then again underneath, some narrative around how we can measure that. My final point is just around the risks of achieving these objectives. So we are a very small team of 3, and it's very notable that the absence of any of our team members can result in significant pressure on the department in achieving even business as usual, let alone carrying forward some of these projects. And this is noted on our corporate risk register as CR16. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you for creating something that didn't exist, which is quite surprising. I'm still new to PRC, but I'm quite surprised that, you know, in a fire service we didn't have that embedded. But there you go. Thank you. I noticed, obviously, a couple of times you mentioned that you've got a very small team, not much cover for absence, etc., etc. Do you think this is something that we need to address?
I do have a plan going forward on how we might be able to achieve some of the projects that we've got, but just to offer you some assurance, all our station managers are also qualified to NEBOSH, which is a level 3 health and safety qualification, so I can pull on their expertise with regards to their local areas. So for my team, it's more about the management of all the systems throughout the organisation, but obviously managers, well, everybody has a responsibility when it comes to looking after their own health and safety and that of their team.
Thanks. Rich?
Thank you, Chair. We are currently in a position where we don't have any uniform presence in the health and safety team, which is something that's quite unusual in a FRS. This is something that Becky and I have discussed, and we do, as she mentioned earlier, we do have a plan in place to hopefully amend that, which will add an additional member to the team.
Sounds like good news. Do we have any other questions for Becky? No? Okay. So we are asked to approve the Health, Safety and Welfare Strategy for publication. I'd like to propose that we do so. Can I have a seconder? Dan again, thank you. Are there any votes against? Any abstentions? And all votes in favour? Thank you very much. I'll now move on to agenda item 13, the approval of the procurement strategy, and Tanya will be presenting on this one.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of strategies today, so I'll keep it as succinct as I can for you. So this is the procurement strategy for 2025 through to 2030. It builds on our current procurement strategy and also incorporates aligns with our service plan, national procurement policy statement. As you can imagine, our procurement elements, as well as aligning to fire service, has to align to our national requirements. We have our own procurement and commercial fire standards as well, so we have to align to that and follow all of those recommendations. Those that have met me and realise that procurement is quite a broad subject, and we end up covering quite a lot of areas. So our strategy focuses on 4 key areas. As you would expect, it's to maximise efficiencies and value for money. I think you'd be shocked if that wasn't on there. Contract management and risk mitigation. This is becoming much more important under the new Procurement Act, and has really brought sharp focus on public sector contract management. Responsible procurement and ethical sourcing. This covers things like SMEs and sustainability, environment, etc. So all of those areas. And improvement and innovation, to really push trying to do things differently within public sector and continuous improvement as always. So as succinct as you like. Welcome questions. Just so you know, the attachment is in a Word version. It will be, the information in it won't change, but obviously it will be look nicer on when it's published.
Thank you very much, Tanya. And just to say that obviously the procurement side of things in Avon Fire and Rescue must be thought of quite highly externally, because you were invited to speak at a conference I also attended last year, although I have been dogged by sales emails from everyone since, and I don't know how you managed to cope with that.
To my world.
So I'll open for questions. No? Okay. So we are asked to scrutinise and approve the narrative content of the procurement strategy for publication, and I propose we do so. Do I have a seconder? Tom, thank you. Any votes against? Any abstentions? And all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 14, which is the update on the Severn Park PFI priority programme and approval of the Severn Park strategy. I think, Paula, are you presenting on this one, or Patrick? Patrick, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'm here today to provide an update against the recommendation accepted by PRC in July 2024 in relation to Severn Park, and to bring the Severn Park strategy here for approval. So over the last 12 months, the service has been taking steps to identify the requirements for our exit of the PFI contract, which concludes in 2028, and the needs of the service beyond the 1st of April 2028. Activities in the last 12 months have included initial building surveys, requirements gathering internally, and engagement with the Home Office, which has now actually recently moved over to the Ministry for Housing and Communities and Local Government, MHCLG. It's important to note, actually, just while we're talking about updates and that shift to MHCLG, at the moment we've started to build a really positive relationship with them. We've been proactive in engaging with them and meeting with them, and they've been proactive as well in providing support. So we now have a key contact within MHCLG, and we're also in discussions around accessing additional support through them for free consultancy advice as well, which they would then fund from their own resources. So it's just off to a good start, and hopefully this strategy will help us continue with that relationship. So the activities that we've undertaken to date have culminated in the production of the strategy, which we've brought here today. It is a requirement of our PFI contract and central government that we do produce a PFI contract exit strategy. As a service, we've worked together to combine that strategy with our future for Severn Park strategy to bring it all together into one cohesive document. As you will have seen from the strategy, it broadly aligns to the preferred recommendations set out in July 2024. We've added in indicative key milestone dates, the resources required to complete both aspects of the strategy, and the principles by which the steering group, which will oversee the works, will be guided over the course of the strategy. It also identifies that governance structure, ensuring that our decisions are appropriately consulted upon and are reported at the right levels. It's important to note, as the project progresses, further detail will be added to the strategy, and it should be seen as a live document. However, those principles will remain the same. It's just the detail as we get into the investigation and firming up the information that's available to us will be added into that document as we go. At present, the financial impact of the proposed strategy is identified as £200,000 from capital reserves. The funds available will be used to bring in additional external resource where we need external expertise or support to make sure that we appropriately complete the activities that are highlighted within the strategy. That's all I had to update on, and just open to questions.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a very interesting, comprehensive report, and obviously one of the most important sections, I feel, is the future aims which shows us how important the Severn Park site will be for Avon Fire and Rescue going forward. Do I have any questions from members? Robert?
Yes, thank you. I think that the Severn Park is a great facility, but it's really not in a very good location, particularly in terms of transport links. So I would have liked to have seen something in the strategy about developing a transport policy so that we can access the site more effectively. I see that there is a requirement to provide parking, but there's nothing about sustainable transport or accessing it in any other way.
Yeah, so just to speak to that for a moment, we did pick up an action from Authority earlier on in the year to talk to both Bristol City Council and West of England Council Authority around bus provision outside, which we are actively trying to engage in those conversations on at the moment. Early days, but there is more discussions to be had there. So I think it's a good point, and it's definitely something that we can add to the strategy as we go forward. Yeah.
Thank you, and obviously you'll keep us updated on that as we go forward. And thanks for that point, Robert. It's very important. Cam?
Just on that point, I believe there's now the 37 bus that runs past here, but I don't think there's a bus stop nearby, is there?
So there is a bus stop in both directions just down the road, about a couple hundred metres at most. Yeah.
Thanks. So there is some provision, obviously, but it's not very good, but at least there is some.
There's room for improvement.
I mean, that's okay if you're coming from Bristol, but from other places, it's a bit more difficult.
Okay, and obviously it's good to hear about the developing relationship with MHCLG as well. It's quite a shift moving from the Home Office to there after such a long time. So that's promising. So we are asked to review and approve the Severn Park Strategy, Appendix 1. I will propose that we do so. Do I have a seconder? Dan again, thank you. I don't think the hands are working on that side of the room. Thank you. Do we have any votes against? Do we have any abstentions? And all those in favour? Thank you. So we'll move on to agenda item 15. Sorry if I'm rattling through, but I'm aware of time, and in fact it is a long agenda. The appointment of the new local pension board scheme member representative, and I think Rich is on this one.
Thank you, Chair. Little break from strategies for this one. Again, I'll be quite brief. A vacancy arose for a new scheme member on the local pension board in January, following one of the members stepping down. We did quite extensive advertising across social media, retired members and internally. Unfortunately, we didn't receive any applications. I was about to ask to go out to advert again, but then due to the close working relationship we have with our Fire Brigade Union colleagues, they highlighted to me somebody that may be interested, Crew Manager John Cowley at Western Fire Station. So I went and met with John. John's background before joining Avon Fire and Rescue is that he was a pension advisor. So he had an interest. What put him off really was the extensive application process. So I took the decision at that point to have a professional discussion with him for a couple of hours, which we did. He's very knowledgeable and has a vested interest naturally in the firefighters' pension scheme. And following the professional discussion, I offered him a place on the local pension board. John is also an FBU representative for Western, and the only, I guess, the thing to note really is we will be revisiting the terms of reference on the local pension board for the process for recruiting new members, because they are expected to fill in quite a lengthy application form. They then get shortlisted, they then come to an interview, for a position which is purely voluntary. So I think that's something we've agreed in the local pension board to revisit those terms of reference and what that process looks like. That's my update really around that. Again, as always, happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Rich, and thanks for John for stepping up. So we've got union and pension experience all in one, so that's fantastic. Do we have any questions for Rich? No? Okay. Well, we're just asked to note that, so we've done so. Moving on to agenda item 16, which, as some of you will know, is an item that's very important to me because of the work I've done in the past. The proposal for the donation of fire engines and equipment to the State Emergency Service of Ukraine in the Odessa region. Although there's Odessa in the paper is spelt with two S's, and unfortunately that's the Russian way of spelling it, and they no longer spell it, they just have the one S. So I'll note that there. But Matt's going to present on this one.
Thank you, Chair, and we will make a note of that for future reference. So I bring to PRC Committee today an opportunity for Avon Fire and Rescue Service, Avon Fire Authority to support a city and a fire department within Ukraine, Odessa. Odessa is a key strategic port for Ukraine, and it's located in the southwest region of the country. Just to bring you to the paper itself, so you'll see on page 318 at section 3.1, the background to bringing this to you today is that in 2024, the Bristol Ukrainian community that comprises of approximately 1,000 refugees within Bristol City made contact with the then Lord Mayor, and apologies for the typo, that should be Lord Mayor of Bristol, to establish a friendship between the city of Odessa and the city of Bristol. One of the requests was for support of essential fire equipment to support the city and support the humanitarian effort following the attacks that they've been subjected to. Now, this is a piece of work that Avon Fire and Rescue Service is well experienced in. We also have a charity with Gambia, and we've provided regular support in the aid of equipment and vehicles. We have also provided vehicles to the Ukrainian effort as part of the national deployment of assets to Ukraine. We've made contact with Fire Aid, which is a registered, recognised charity, and you'll see under 3.4 the charity number and status of Fire Aid. And in partnership, they've agreed to work with us and the City of Ukraine to donate 2 fire engines and a hovercraft and associated equipment that goes with that. And you'll find as an appendix 1 to the report is a set of equipment that we're looking to donate to Odessa. We've got an updated hard version, which will be in your pack, which you'll find within the bundle, and that sets out the asset value, which is 0, so in terms of book value. Now, I'll bring you to section 4. So the financial implications for Avon Fire and Rescue Service are a minimal financial outlay. The key cost considerations are transportation costs, administrative costs. Transport costs, again, will be picked up by Fire Aid and Odessa, and then any additional costs around contingency planning. Now, the assessment expectation is we'll be working on a voluntary basis, and we'll be raising any finances through either charity fundraising or through support from Odessa directly, or from Fire Aid, who are working with us in partnership. So to bring back to the recommendations, so we're asking for approval of the donation of redundant, and I emphasise the point redundant, so these are not frontline assets or equipment that will be donated. These are items that are already surplus and will be subject to disposal. So there is no impact on frontline provision within Avon Fire and Rescue Service, and that's exactly the same provision that we provided previously when we supported Ukraine, and it's the same provision as we provide when we support Gambia Fire Service. There is also, we've identified that we're able to provide support to both Odessa and Gambia, so it won't impact on our ongoing support to our other charity. So again, we're requesting approval for donation of redundant fleet appliance equipment and associated equipment to the City of Odessa. We're also looking to asking for approval of Fire Aid as a charity for charitable donations of redundant fire appliances, fleet and equipment. And then also we're requesting the authorisation of the statutory finance officer or their nominated deputy to authorise the disposal of the assets up to a book value of £24,999 via charitable donation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chief. And if you don't mind, I'll just say a little bit about it as well. I recently visited Odessa. I was there for 6 days, and there were 18 air raid alerts in those 6 days. So I spent a lot of time in bomb shelters. 332 civilians were killed in Ukraine in June alone, the highest ever amount. I visited the mainly volunteer firefighters, most of whom are older than me, because a lot of the young men are at the front. They're doing what they can with the equipment that they have, and they're facing glide bombs, they're facing cruise missiles, they're facing ballistic missiles, they're facing bombardment with Shahed drones. If I left my window in the hotel open at night, I could hear the explosions coming from the front line in Crimea. I saw some of the burnt out buildings, but I also met with the Ukrainians, and they are the strongest people I think I've ever met. They have a very similar resilience to the British, I think, from the Second World War kind of blitz spirit. So if you have any questions, I'm also more than happy to answer any of these. So do we have any questions? Oh gosh, I thought there might be. Tom?
I don't have a question, but it seems like a really good thing to be doing, given what's going on over there and what they've had to face for many years, since the annexation of the Crimea back in 2014. We've had a lot of issues going on, and I think fair play to you, Paul, for going all the way out there and to see what's happening on the ground. And I'm glad that Avon Fire and Rescue is in a position to make a donation to really help them improve their fire service, given the destruction that it's faced.
Yeah, I mean, since the invasion was 3.5 years ago, the full-scale invasion, but they've been fighting the war for 11 years now, and well over 100,000 Ukrainians have been killed. They also have, the Russians have a rather nasty tactic in that they did it in Odessa. I saw the effects. The most luxurious hotel in Odessa happens to be called the Hotel Bristol, so there is some kind of fate there. They hit it with a ballistic missile, but they missed at the front by about 10 feet. So that gave everyone a chance to evacuate the hotel. The Russian rationale was that there were military personnel staying there, but actually Chernomorets, the local football team, was staying there that night, so that was wrong. But 20 minutes later, which as I say is a current tactic, the same area was hit again. This time, unfortunately, the missile came straight in through the roof, blew the top floor off and half of the hotel as well. And it's a tactic they use because they know that if they wait 20 minutes to hit a target again, the emergency services will be there, and they do it to try and kill the first responders. So it's particularly repellent. But yeah, thank you all. Robert.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very supportive of this for all the reasons you've given. It's terrible what's happening, and if we can support the fire service in Odessa, then that's great. I just wasn't quite clear on something about the transportation. Are you saying that it's the fire aid who's organising the transportation, and we won't have anything to do with that? Is that right?
We are working in association with fire aid. Because we're looking at a variety of different routes because of the geographical location of Odessa, and also to say on the financial side of things, as the way it stands at the moment, Odessa will be covering the transportation costs. But yes, we will be driving the trucks all the way there rather than shipping them. Yeah, I shall be on board. I can't drive the vehicles, unfortunately. I don't have the licence, but I'll be going for moral support and taking photos and stuff. So.
Yeah, that's the approach that's been taken in previous convoys that Avon Fire and Rescue Service have been involved in. So on a volunteer basis, we transport the vehicles across Europe and then donate them across directly. So.
Thanks. Any other points or questions? No? Okay. So we are asked to approve the donation of the redundant appliance fleet, and as Matt said, these are end-of-life fire engines, and it just turns out we had 4 at the same time. So 2 are still being transported to Gambia to support our existing work there, and 2 will go to Odessa. To approve Fire Aid as a charity for charitable donations of redundant appliance fleet and equipment, which again, as Matt said, is something that we've done in the past anyway. Fire Aid have shipped 150 fire engines to Ukraine since the full-scale invasion. And to authorise Verity, or their nominated deputy, which is Claire in this case, to authorise the disposal of the assets up to the book value of $24,999 via a charitable donation to it's a charitable foundation called the State Emergency Service of Ukraine in the Odessa region, facilitated through Fire Aid. So I would like to propose that we approve. Sorry, Tom. Too keen. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll propose that we do approve the recommendations as set out in the paper. Tom, thank you very much for seconding. Do I have any votes against? Do I have any abstentions? And all those in favour? Thank you. And also on a personal level, thank you very much for being charitable. So we're almost there. We now have agenda item 17, which is to agree and monitor the procurement forward plan, 250k, snapshot 23rd July 2025, and Tanya will be presenting again on this one.
Thank you. So yeah, this is your regular procurement pipeline update that I provide every quarter for you. Anything in the yellow is potentially something that will come to this forum as a business case. You'll have seen that there's quite a few bits added to the bottom of the list. These are always very much up for debate. I'm looking at least a year or 2 ahead, so these are not firm decisions, things might change. And you can also see the ones that have been approved, and you will be talking about one of them in a few minutes as well. So yeah, obviously always welcome, questions always welcome, but it's really for information and clarity, and giving you a heads up of what's coming.
Thank you, Tanya. And just to mention, as regards procurement, but also in relation to the previous item, that we have now received we've now procured a new hovercraft, which is being crew trained down in Weston, which is why we were able to donate the old one. Do we have any questions for Tanya on this one? No? That's fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, that's just for noting. So we will move on to the date of the next meeting, which is the 1st of October, and this time it's at Nailsea Fire Station, continuing to try and move things around. It's Wednesday the 1st of October 2025 at 10:30 a.m. Before we... Oh no, it's okay, we do have to go into exempt. I was going to see if we could exclude that. So, agenda item 19, exclusion of the press and public. So, we resolve that the public be excluded from the meeting during the following items of business on the grounds that they contain exempt information pursuant to Schedule 12A, Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972, and that in accordance with Schedule 12A, Part 2, Paragraph 10 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. And as we do have business to discuss, I'd like to propose that we do at this point exclude the press and the public. Do I have a seconder? Hey, got one from that side. Thank you, Ron. Are there any votes against? Any abstentions? And all those in favour? We'll now stop videoing and go into exempt.